Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's October post-production panel. My name is Jonathan Correia, and I'm one of the co-hosts on the Eye on Horror podcast. I'm so excited to be speaking with some extremely talented creatives in post-production today, so please join me in welcoming them to the virtual stage. We have the editor of Bone Lake, Anjuna Grama here, composer for Shelby Oaks, James Burkholder, the composer on Sweet Revenge, a Friday the 13th story, Michelangelo Rodriguez, and the editor for Shelby Oaks and Screamboat, Patrick Lawrence, and the composer for the album Music for Halloween Night, George Stryker. How's everyone doing? Welcome.
Hello.
Good. Hey,
Hello.
how you
Very
doing?
good. Thanks for having us on.
Oh, of course. Thanks, Impact 24, for having us all here and inviting us. It's a nice, cool day here in the Valley, and let's get into it. Just to start us all off, can each of you share a little bit about your creative role on your project and how you shaped the tone and atmosphere? Let's start with Patrick.
Yeah, thank you for having me. With Shelby Oaks, I was really drawn to the project because I'd always wanted to do I always wanted to do a film that, positioned itself as a documentary, but actually was not. I'd been trying to do that for years with a short film and never really happened. And when I got the script for Shelby Oaks, I read it and I was like, oh, this is it. This is exactly the thing I was trying to do. And I wasn't really aware of, like Lake Mungo, for instance, was not something that had crossed my screen. So I really dove into that and really wanted to, try to find that balance of, what feels real, but like what's fake. And in the film, we have a shift that turns narrative and it becomes a very different type of film after that. It becomes very driven by dread. And so tonally, I'd always wanted to do not only the documentary thing, but I'd always wanted to do like a true crime movie as well. Like I'd always kind of saw myself as being a editor that was kind of, worked on Fincher films or something like that. And I'd never gotten the chance to do that. I'd worked in comedy for like 5 years pre-pandemic. And so this was sort of the opportunity for me to like dive into that and really kind of like hone in on the mystery and the feeling of dread, which, I feel like in order to achieve, you have to, we wake up every morning, we dread going to work or we dread going to school or we dread paying our taxes or whatever it is. And so you have to really like hone into like, how does that work? And with Shelby Oaks, it was the approach of, knowing our main character, Mia, her journey and her ultimate, where she ends up ultimately in the end, and working backwards from there and making sure that the feeling is creeping in as the closer and closer she gets.
It's a really tough challenge, and with Shelby Oaks, you guys play with a lot of tropes that happen. Like, you can only watch someone watch something scary on a TV so many times, but just like little simple moments like that were done so well in this. And it's definitely, the editing, and of course James with the composing on Shelby Oaks, really the two combined took these little elements that are like, oh, I might have seen something like this before, and like really mixed it. Can you tell us a bit more about the music, James?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, similar to Patrick, when I didn't, once I came on, Pat had already done, a rough cut of the film. And this was in January of 2023. And I saw it and I was immediately attracted to exactly what he was, just the interplay between these different genres all in the same kind of 90-ish minutes. And, I think that from a musical standpoint, tonally, I think the biggest challenge was having to jump between those genres, but make it all feel like one cohesive piece of art. So, you'll have kind of sonic textures in one section that you don't have at all in another, and vice versa. And you kind of have that throughout the film. and then taking that concept and having it, like Patrick said, build all the way through. And interestingly enough, the Newtons and I, we basically do that on almost every project, but especially on this one, where you start with the last cue or maybe the climactic cue of the film, so you have a space, so you have space to build to that point. And that was kind of our approach.
Oh man, and what a cute! It's really hard to talk about Shelby Oaks without spoiling anything.
I know it is, yeah.
That's why I'm like, oh, let's focus on these little moments. But that ending is, yeah, I loved it. That was everything I wanted.
Thank you.
Now, when it comes to music, I think one of the folks here that had one of the hardest challenges is our friend here, Michelangelo Rodriguez, with Sweet Revenge. Friday the 13th story. You had this unique challenge of not only kind of helping to reintroduce Jason to a new generation, but the Friday the 13th series has one of the most iconic scores ever. What was it like taking on that challenge?
Yeah, for sure. So I am the co-composer to Sweet Revenge alongside Matthew Compton, and we had the privilege to work with Mike P. Nelson, the director, on this. And one of the main things that really helped shape the tone and the atmosphere was listening to Mike's vision about how he wanted to create this familiar but revamped Friday the 13th world. So with the score and the tone and the atmosphere, all that was really influenced from the world of the original Manfredini scores of the original Friday the 13th films, but just more filtered through a more modern lens.
Oh yeah, and you guys do incorporate the iconic "Ki ma ma ma."
Yeah,
at the right moment. Because I was sitting there, I was like, when are they gonna do it? You got to do it. And
yeah. Luckily, apparently that is not copyrighted, so we were able to incorporate that pretty loosely in there. And of course, we know with that iconic sound, we wanted to put it at the really appropriate moments and be careful. And we were careful not to overuse it, and also pretty careful not to use it in too jarring of a moments. We wanted to pay homage to all that kind of original tones and all that kind of stuff. So with the Ki Mama Mas, that was really, really fun to use too.
Oh, absolutely. And June, when it comes to Bone Lake, well, we were just talking with Shelby Oaks on not spoiling anything. Bone Lake, it's all about withholding. And
yes.
Boy, what an insane opening 2 minutes. I often talk about not wanting to spoil the third act. Bone Lake, I don't want to spoil those first 2 minutes. What was it like building this intense suspense and just this incredible pacing that's happening throughout this really erotic thriller?
Yeah, well, I feel like, speaking about tone, this film is definitely a blend of genres. I've described it as like a psychosexual comedic thriller with some horror. So there's a lot going on here. And I think as the editor, balancing all of that was like the main challenge, which came down to performances. Since this is a cast of 4, it's all like, at the end of the day, it's all about the interpersonal dynamics between these two couples. And that, just a little backstory on it, they both wind up at the same Airbnb or like house rental for the same weekend. And then they decide to stay, and everything that spirals from there. So really focusing on grounded performances while we have a lot to play here with surreal elements, stylized cinematography, and a lot of that. So pacing as well and withholding information, I think, is what helps build the tension and then the release. So there was a lot of, I can't really go into the reveals, but I feel like how we build a lot of tension to, release you with a reveal at a critical moment was keeping people on edge that way. Giving a little bit more of the puzzle, never the full picture. And similarly with scares, I think like both scares, and like the building the tension, and then the scare kind of breaks that momentarily, but we bring the tension back up constantly. So it's just playing with that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, comedy and horror have the same, type of tempo. It's just the punchline is a bit different. So that
Yeah.
definitely helps out. And I mean, Bone Lake, it felt very at home with a lot of like 90s erotic thrillers that were coming out. I could have almost
Yeah.
see like one of the Baldwins and Alyssa Milano being in this maybe if it came out back in 95.
Yeah.
But what a
So
fun
at
time.
least with Little Wild Things is definitely like an influence.
Yes.
If that's what you're kind of talking about. Yeah.
Oh yeah, love Wild Things. Both have similar shots in them. And then, of course, George, your album that came out recently, the music for Halloween Night, is such a fun Halloween dreamscape. What was it like crafting that type of world, this almost soundtrack to films that don't exist?
Yeah, I guess precisely that. It was a sequel to an album I did, I think, 3 years ago, in COVID creative panic, and called Music of the Macabre. And this one, this one I just really wanted to try to stretch my legs on it a little more and branch out into more of a kind of narrative musical styling of all the different things that happen on one Halloween night. And certainly a very nostalgic album, definitely for kids who grew up in the 90s and stuff, and Halloween from that era, and a fully orchestral representation of that. Harkening back to, scores like Hocus Pocus and Casper and all those kinds of things. But yeah, it was tremendously fun and really challenging, and yeah, a very nostalgic trip for sure.
Oh, I love the album. Been listening to it with my cat the last few days, and it reminds me a lot of like those Chills and Thrills LPs that you would find back in the day. But also a lot of the music, like I could easily picture like a classic Fletcher cartoon of like a cat going through some nightmare in some of the songs. What were some of the challenges of crafting this album rather than having like a film to put this against? Was there a bit more freedom with it? There a bit more challenge?
Well, I think freedom is the challenge, is that you can do whatever you want to do. So anything is possible, and I have a lot of stuff that I started and didn't finish, that maybe will show up on something else. Yeah, the challenge was that the sky was the limit, and I had an idea for a track particularly called Flick or it was originally called Variations on Terror, and it was to musicify channel surfing on Halloween night, and you're flipping through the channels and you're seeing movies from the 30s, movies from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, so taking you through the eras of horror film music with one melodic idea, just doing variations on the orchestrations and things like that of how it changed. So that was really challenging and really fun, but yeah, the creative ceiling being much higher than being restricted to not restricted to, but the movie tells you what it needs, and you're able to kind of follow that, and it's still certainly a big challenge. But this was maybe going up against my biggest critic, which is myself. So,
George, I feel like that's a really cool concept. It's kind of like The Long Goodbye, but for horror, where you have the same melody that you're like bringing through all these different. That's a really cool concept.
yeah,
I can't wait
just
to hear
dropping
it.
it into the different eras. Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's definitely room for a sequel. There's so many more,
That's
so much
rad.
different sounds. Yeah.
that's really cool.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. And you touched upon something just there a bit too, George, that I wanted to ask the composers in the room. When it comes to film composing, it can really elevate a scene, really build up the tension, but sometimes it's just better to just sit there in the silence. Like when do you know to do that? Because I mean, I'm gonna go to Patrick first and James with Shelby Oaks, because man, there were times where I was just sitting there in the silence and I was like, I don't like this feeling. I need something. I need something right now. So when do you know to do that?
Yeah, I'm very allergic to wall-to-wall score. I'm comfortable living in silence, and you see that in a lot of the projects I do, that I just love to make the audience uncomfortable, and I will sit in a shot for as long as I can for my sins. And sometimes it doesn't go so well, but sometimes I think it does. And yeah, with Shelby, it was great because in editorial, you know, Chris Stuckman had this real, like, you know, encyclopedic knowledge of film scores. And so he knew, you know, whether to pull Field of Dreams or, you know, Doctor Sleep or Seven or whatever that we were using that really kind of like set the tone very early on. And then when we found out that we were working with James and the Newtons, it was great because we could hone in on that, because there was a third act that I'm not supposed to talk about, but there's a scene in the third act that, like, we were really struggling with score. And the scene was perfect. I could watch the scene all day long with no score. It was beautiful, but we knew it needed something. And I was even mortified when we went to Mike Flanagan and showed him the scene dry, because I knew the first thing he was going to say was it needs score. I know. But I couldn't hone in on what it was. And then I think when we found out that we were working with James and the Newtons, it made it a little bit easier because we were able to go into their library and pull some stuff that I think worked. And then James ultimately just knocked it out of the park.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, but I think that, like, yeah, when it that push and pull of like silence or you know, I love it, but I also think that, like, music and score, like, it needs to be motivated in the right way, and it needs to not be like force fed to the people.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a big part of that ends up being, you know, your communication in the spotting session and in the subsequent playback sessions. You know, I think that Chris is like Patrick said, he has an encyclopedic knowledge of music, which I think affords him a real musicality in the way that he approaches these scenes. But, you know, we'd have back and forths where he would go, yeah, I don't think there's temp here, but I think we can just leave it dry. I think we can kind of let the scene speak for itself. And we'd be like, cool, great. We totally agree. And then there were other times where he'd be like, I don't know, I think this needs some help. And we'd kind of be like, I don't know, man, like the breath is really scary on its own. Like, it's something that I've talked about a lot with Chris, actually, where the sound design and the editing and the interplay between those two is music in a way. And being able to come in and out in the right places as a composer with that sound design it's definitely an interplay. But if you have a great director like Chris, who's communicative and understanding and empathetic, it was just a joy getting to kind of, you know, place the music where it needed to be.
Absolutely, and especially with Shelby Oaks, the use of space is very well done, both in camera, the editing, and sound. There were times, it's one of those movies where you're always looking in the dark corner, going, "What the fuck's going to come out of there?"
Absolutely.
And Michelangelo, when it comes to Sweet Revenge, what was it? When did you know to do this? Same question. Like, when did you know to, like, punch in? I know we talked a bit about, you know, incorporating the iconic Manfredi cues, but how do you know?
yeah, for sure. So we actually had the chance to read the script a little bit beforehand, and so we were able to create themes and other weird orchestral palettes beforehand, and that saved us a lot of time. And that really gave us a chance to really experiment with weird textures and weird sounds. And because some of the tracks that we created for that, because they were already locked in when we first got the picture, we were able to use that time to create samples, such as using Angry Orchard bottles and turning them into weird hits or weird pads or things like that, just to blend in little Easter eggs here and there. So working with Mike, we were able to develop this unique sound that was reminiscent of the old Friday the 13th world, of the original scores, but just something that was new and updated, something that was fresh, and something that was unique to Sweet Revenge on its own, and something that could stand alone, but you would still know that it's the world of Friday the 13th.
That's really interesting, because I know that Sweet Revenge was done in partnership with Angry Orchard, and you know, you can see it in there. I didn't realize you guys also incorporated that into the score
very
as
cool.
well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just like little Easter eggs here and there. It was so much fun to do.
Oh man, I bet they were really stoked about that. Hearing,
Yeah,
oh, we're in the score too. All right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
sorry, not to get too nerdy, but Michelangelo, are you like taking samples and throwing them into Contact? Like, what is your approach?
Yeah, so I would record the bottles, tapping them, blowing into them, things like that, and just putting weird effects, putting weird pedals, putting weird distortion sounds on them. Not necessarily putting them into Contact, but just taking the WAV files themselves. I
Gotcha.
find that that has a little bit more flexibility, at least just what I was working with at the moment. And
Totally.
yeah, just putting them through weird effects, putting weird delays, putting uh, long reverbs on them, putting different kinds of like distortions and pedals, as I said, to just really create this unique sound that originated from a bottle that you could buy at Target.
That's awesome. I can't wait to check that out.
Thank you.
That's really awesome. And I love, and if you guys want to get nerdy with the technical, that's the stuff that I love. So please nerd out on the text as much as possible. One of the things that is a curse to say is fix it in post, which we all know. Don't say that. It's that and easy. I are cursed and banned words in my world. But at the end of the day, every project has its limitations, especially when it comes to smaller projects that have very ambitious visions. And all of these projects are very ambitious. And so I just want to kind of go around the room and ask everyone, what were some creative workarounds or unexpected discoveries that you found in post-production that actually made the final piece stronger? James, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the jump, we knew we weren't going to have, a big budget to go and record an orchestra in London. So, I think the approach from the jump was, let's do this kind of garage band DIY style. And luckily, when I signed on to work on this film, I had just bought a new instrument called a guitar viol. It's kind of like halfway between a guitar and a cello, and it's fretted, so stupid guitar players like me can actually play it without going too badly out of intonation. And so a lot of the strings on the film are actually just me playing the guitar viol, which I think those limitations you end up with a cooler final product because you're forced to get creative. So I think that the score has a more unique sonic, name tag to it, if you will, than it would have if we had this big budget to go, record at Warner Brothers or something. And yeah, we did all kinds of, similar to what Michelangelo was saying, we recorded like all kinds of weird stuff, like, bowing old metal dustpans and banging on little weird drums with tambourines on them and stuff like that to give it kind of a folky thing, all the way to the all the vocals are pretty much just me chanting into a microphone, pitched and stretched in different ways. So yeah, I think that as much as it is a challenge, it really is kind of a blessing in disguise.
Allows you to spread your wings and experiment and try different things.
Totally, exactly.
And Andrew, you had the extra challenge of having it be essentially a one location shoot with only 4 characters. What were some of the creative workarounds and unexpected things that came up that you had to work with?
Yeah, I feel like that was an advantage and a challenge for production, definitely having one location. And actually, our finale, I would say, was like the biggest challenge because that was set to shoot the last day of production. And this is like a shoot on open water with a boat, stunts, doubles, a lot of action. And they actually got stormed out. Like the rain became part of the finale sequence, but then there was lightning and they had to close like production down. So we always knew we were gonna have to go do pickups, which no one wants to do. But having it be the actual ending of the movie really created just this awesome opportunity where we could get the cut into a really good place and then honestly like see if there's alternate endings that we want to shoot now that we only had like maybe 20% of it shot before they shut down. So that gave us the space and the time to see where the cut was really going with it. And I think it's better for it because there were some rewrites. We extended that whole sequence and then they shot it like on a stage later. And, you know, matching it, I don't think you would know that it was shot over multiple different shoots. But that was definitely a challenge. And like the DP and production designer did a great job of trying to match everything and like performance as well, because they're coming back at different times, like months apart, which was, you know, gave us a space, which I would say was also really nice because usually you don't have that time to come back to your edit in indie filmmaking and where you're, you know, just want to get it out and like the schedule's tighter. So I would say that that all ended up really making the film better in the end.
Yeah, I couldn't tell that it was 3 different places and stuff. It's also a very wet and goopy ending, and I'm wearing my Devil's Rain sweater, so you know I love goopy endings. It's a lot of fun. What were because you were also the editor for Spoonful of Sugar as well, which is also same director, a lot of fun, but very visually different films. What were some of the big differences between working on those two? Big fan of Spoonful, by the way.
Yeah, that one I would say was like even more stylized than Bone Lake. Story-wise, it was also, yeah, it didn't happen over just a weekend. I would say a lot of that, like the differences, they're really different worlds, but I would say that they have similar characters in which you don't know who to trust. Like sometimes even your leads, you're like, oh, did they do that? Did they not? We're playing with a little bit of, this deception. So I think in some ways there were similarities there, but yeah, Spoonful of Sugar was very wild, a very fun one to edit.
Yeah. That one came out of nowhere for me when that came out, and I was like, "Oh, I love psychedelic horror," so that was a lot of fun jumping into. And Bone Lake, you guys were very, very good at having untrustworthy narrators and who you're following at times, which I love and appreciate. Also, it's just fun seeing attractive people get with. It's a genre that isn't explored too often these days, and hence the 90s thriller reference I keep going back to.
Yeah, exactly.
And Michelangelo, what were some of the discoveries in post that you found that helped make the process almost better? I know you were talking a lot about incorporating a lot of these different instruments and sounds and warping with them.
Absolutely, yeah. So kind of to branch off more about that, so we incorporated these weird cello sounds and modern synths and this orchestral palette that was reminiscent of the original films. And we had, well, of course, you know, we were working with time constraints and budget constraints. And I think that because of that, we were kind of forced to basically create 3 different versions of the score. And it was so much fun to do because we were able to see how something like a modern horror Marco Beltrami-esque score worked against that picture, which it worked, but it wasn't really the sound that we were kind of going for. And then we tried something that was more synthy, much more like a modern horror score that involved different kind of almost zero acoustic elements, something that focused way more on electronics. And that was cool too. But again, it wasn't really exactly what Mike had envisioned. And then we landed on something that was, it was almost like a real solid, I would say that we landed on something that was used the orchestral palette of the originals, but just had something that was just different about the new score because it had weird tones and weird, as I said, like cello scratches and samples that came from bottles. And just using that new sound really, really gave us the inspiration that that we needed for this whole project. And just listening to the old scores too really, really helped. Watching the old movies really, really helped too. I watched 1 through 4 right away. I had already seen the first one, but I watched 1 through 4 right away as soon as I knew that I was coming on board, and I really try to just soak it all in. Try to get in that atmosphere, the Friday the 13th atmosphere, and just really live in it for those weeks that we were working on it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you especially got to do the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. I mean, those are the key. I know that's what 3, 4. No, yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's 3, 4, 5?
Yeah. 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
God, if I get that wrong, so I'm gonna get skewed. I'm gonna get yelled at by someone. No, but I love the incorporation. It was something new, it was something fresh, but it was still had all those harkens, and you could hear all those different tones in there. It was again, and it's a short film. It's only 12 minutes, so you gotta get in and you get out. But it's you guys did a lot in that 12 minutes, which is
thank you.
An accomplishment.
Yeah, so much fun.
And George, when it comes to your album, how did you play every instrument and do everything together? What was some of the mixing and producing process there? Because it feels like a lot. Was it just you?
I certainly did not play every instrument of the 70-piece orchestra that I hired.
Okay. You did hire an orchestra.
Yeah.
I was like, that would be insane if you did.
That would be insane. And I probably wouldn't be able to be on this call. But no, I contracted the Budapest Scoring Orchestra, which you guys, I'm sure, are all very familiar with. They do everything nowadays. And about half the album was with the live orchestra, half the track. There's 11 tracks in the album, orchestral stuff. And then there were smaller ensemble things, partly because this is a self-produced thing, and I'd like to keep my apartment. But also just got different palettes I wanted to mess around with, and kind of going into the sound designy stuff too. Actually, there was a track on the album called The Halloween Shop, which I was writing as an homage to a Halloween shop I grew up with in the 90s, which was in a barn with a hayloft Halloween shop, and that's where they kept all the creepy stuff, like the Crypt Keeper and everything. And so I sampled a lot of old decoration sounds from the 90s, including the little, shaking ghost guy. He was a little theremin lead that I kind of sampled to make that. But then also screams and shrieks and stuff. And while I did perform those pieces because it's just on a synthesizer, it was so hard to source where those sounds came from. And I ended up using ChatGPT to find that they all came from Hollywood Edge. Just like these old shrieks and screams. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like the most basic sound library ever, and for some reason it was impossible to find them. But yeah, so it was a mix of a lot of different things, and some stuff I performed on their little piano pieces and things, but a lot of it was just soloists to small ensembles and then a big orchestra. And I edited it, produced it all myself. I did all the marketing myself. I've done run the socials myself, all that stuff. So
it's an insane amount of work. Yeah.
I'm ready for Christmas. Yeah.
Oh, well, already we got 2 weeks left. It's
I know.
Halloween season.
I'll rally.
Well, I mean, you were saying that you didn't perform all the orchestra, but you still wore many, many hats and did a lot of work on this. So thank you for being awake for this panel.
Oh, my gosh.
Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me.
And thank you so much for searching for that sound. I've been seeing a lot on social media, people sharing this classic, like the ghost things doing the, like we all know that sound from the 90s. So thank you for finding that, incorporating it in, because that really does itch like a spot in the back of the brain that forgets there, but once it's scratched,
it's coming back.
And now we know Hollywood Edge. Right is where it is
for him. I don't know actually. For the shrieks and the, I guess what's now known as the jigsaw laugh, is an old Hollywood Edge sound effect. Yeah,
right. The puppet laugh.
Yeah, but he was in a bunch of decorations too when I was a kid and stuff. So.
Oh man, one of these days someone's going to put together the ultimate compilation of just those sound cues. And
I'd love to see a documentary about it. Where the hell did these all come from?
Let's do it. We got half of at least most of post here. Let's get this going. Now, I know, George, you need to rally for the next 2 weeks. So let's help him out, guys. What are some things that get you guys into the October spirit that you're looking forward to? I know we were just before this call, we were all talking about going to local haunts and Universal and all that fun jazz. But what's a piece of media that you're excited to watch this month to get into the spirit? I'll start with you, June. And June.
Well, I always love a rewatch. Like a Sleepy Hollow, Nightmare Before Christmas. But new things, I think Good Boy was on my list of something not mentioned here yet. And then I'm also really excited about Frankenstein, but I know that that's November, so a little bit late, but I'm excited about that.
I mean, it's Guillermo del Toro doing sexy monsters and a movie about a dog. Like, how could you not be excited about those?
Yeah, there are too many things to choose. I feel like there's always great content right now.
What do you go for any of the Halloween TV specials in your rewatches?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I should. I feel like I don't watch like TV, but that is from my childhood. Well, I know that for around the holidays there was always like that 25 Days of Christmas countdown, but there was also the Halloween version of that. I mean, a Hocus Pocus, which I think George mentioned earlier, is definitely something that yeah. Halloween Town. Yeah, there's a lot of those.
Awesome. What about you, Michelangelo?
So every October, and this time it was October 1st, maybe at around 12:30 a.m. I always watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one. That's my favorite horror film. A little biased because I'm from Texas, and they shot it maybe like 30 minutes away from where I grew up. So of course, I'm a little biased, but it is my favorite horror film, and I always watch that at least once a year. So that's the way I started off the horror season, and I always try to just watch a whole bunch of different kind of horror films. Like right now, I'm rewatching The Exorcism of Emily Rose, uh, and that is just a fantastic film that I'm watching right now. And I'm also the same director. He directed The Black Phone, and I'm really excited about The Black Phone too. Huge fan of that series, and yeah, that's how I love to just get in the Halloween spirit, get in the spooky spirit. That's I love to do stuff. I love to do stuff like that.
That's awesome. And yeah, Exorcism of Emily Rose is very surprising because it's part courtroom drama, part exorcism movie.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you get it. I feel like that scratches Patrick's itch, as you were saying earlier, of wanting to do true crime and horror. And George, what are some October spirit things to kind of awaken that while you rally for the last 2 weeks?
Well, I live in Burbank.
Yes.
So I'm
Very
surrounded
spooky town.
by spooky capital of California. But Good Boy is on my list. Actually, my sister has a Nova Scotia duck toller.
Oh, wow.
Little Daisy. Yeah, that is the breed that the Good Boy is. So we were very excited to see that make an appearance in a major movie. And I heard that Disney Plus just dropped Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is a movie that horrified me as a kid. And it has an amazing James Horner score to it. And incidentally, a George Delarue score that was thrown out in the original version, which is also very good. So those are two movies that I will definitely likely be checking out. And all of your projects as well, which I need to absolutely dive into.
Absolutely. And Something Wicked This Way Comes is so good, and it's so sad that Blu-ray is very out of print, but thankfully it is on streaming finally.
I don't know why they hoard that stuff. So it's so bizarre to me.
It's the vault, man. It's the vault. They love invoking the vault when they can. James, what's your October festivities?
I mean, I'm such a sucker for the Conjuring universe, and I always watch those movies in October just to get in the spooky mood. But I haven't seen the new one yet, so I'm really really excited to see that film. And then I know everyone's been kind of talking about Hocus Pocus. George, I love that score. That John Debney. He kind of invented that kind of modern spooky sound, I feel like. And yeah, I love watching that movie.
Oh man, you got to listen to his album then, George. I have new, especially very much so invokes that kind of spirit, and
I'm super stoked. I'm such a sucker for that kind of
I'm
stuff.
a huge John Debney fan, so.
Oh, me too, man. Me too.
and Patrick, you're also a fellow Burbank, Magnolia area resident. What are some of your October festivities you're going for?
Yeah, Halloween in my house starts on August 31st. My wife started as soon as the weekend hits, she's putting up decorations, and I was just in Austin for Fantastic Fest with James, and I came back and there was double the amount of decorations than there were before I left. So it's nuts. My whole house is just Halloween. On top of the fact that we live in Burbank and we're 5 minutes away from Halloween Row and like all of those shops. But I every year I try to do one horror movie a night for the month of October, and I fail. And
Every year.
This year I'm already failing, but Bone Lake is on my list for sure. Good Boy is on my list. I just watched one of James's movies, Werewolves, last week. That ruled. And I have still not seen Weapons, so that's one that I need to spend time with.
Yeah, you got to.
But this weekend I went to go see Tron Ares, so that's spooky in its own right.
What's
maybe the
spooky
spookiest.
What's spooky about AI being weaponized and having the face of Jared Leto? That's not terrifying thought at all.
I was gonna say that I sat there the whole time going, "Why Jared Leto?" I don't know.
What you said about trying to watch, I try to do the Hooptober challenge every year, or where you watch 31 movies in 31 days. But they even have that wiggle room of like, well, you can start September 15th, and you always have to have a Toby Hooper movie in there. And I'm already so far behind, even with like that head start. I watched like 7 films that first week on September 15th, and then it's just been weeks of dead. So, trying to watch a movie every night that hit hard. Of like, yep, I know that pain. Awesome. Well. Thank you guys so much for coming on and talking. These are such awesome projects. It's so great to also highlight post. Post needs to be highlighted more. The editing and the music is just as important as the actors and the directors. I believe, in some cases even more, because you save it. You save the day towards the end. Unsung heroes here. So thank you again so much for coming on. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for sharing your projects. I've enjoyed them all. I could sit here and talk with you guys all day. But that's about all the time we have today. So thank you, Anjun. Thank you, James. Thank you, Michelangelo, Patrick, and George for being here to discuss this great body of work. Thank you, Impact 24 PR, for putting this panel together. And, of course, to everyone at home watching, thank you all, and we'll see you all next time.